Truthdig's a web magazine, and our mission is to drill beneath the headlines. We provide in-depth coverage of current events and provocative content. All of our speakers tonight write original content for us, and we're proud to have them. All of the authors will be signing their own books in the West Lobby when the event is over with, so I hope you take the opportunity to meet them. I also want to tell you we're extremely proud. Truthdig just won Webby Award. We were voted by both the jury and the People's Voice as the best political blog. This is just 1.5 years after our launch, so we're very proud of that. So next I'm going to introduce tonight's moderator, Robert Scheer. Bob is an award-winning journalist. He's a syndicated columnist based at the San Francisco Chronicle. He is featured on KCRW's Right, Left, and Center. The author of 8 acclaimed books, most recently Plain President, My Close Encounters with Nixon, Carter, Bush 1, and Clinton, and How They Did Not Prepare Me for George W. Bush. So, together, Bob, Scheer, and I started Truthdig. He's the co-founder, he's our editor-in-chief, and he's my dear, dear friend, Robert Scheer.
But I just want to begin by saying I can't think of any two ballsier writers in America than these two guys. You know, Swade mentioned that we got nominated. We got nominated in these different categories, and we won in for political blog. And really, these two guys had an awful lot to do with our winning that. Old friend of mine, Barry Golson, had recommended that we get Sam Harris on the site when we first were beginning. Sam did, I think, 3 or 4 pieces. You did an interview with Blair Golson and so forth. And we've had millions of people come to those pieces. And it's generated a real interesting debate. I'm not going to spend a lot of time introducing each of these people, but everyone here knows that Sam is the author of the bestseller, The End of Faith, Religion, Terror, and the Future of Reasoning, and also A Letter to a Christian Nation, which, when I was rereading it today, realized borrowed heavily from our dig on the Atheist Manifesto. So I take that, yes, and I take that as a flattering thing. He's completing a doctorate in neuroscience. Well, I'm not going to go on. His work appears everywhere. He was the winner of the 2005 Penn Award for nonfiction. His books are being translated all over the world, and he's just become a major force in our country in challenging the religious right and so forth. Sam Harris. Chris Hedges is probably the leading American war correspondent of the last, 100 years or something. And I mean that in all seriousness. Last night I spent a lot of time, last couple of days, reading all the clips from these guys. And Hedges has covered the action in over 50 countries. He was in Latin America, in Salvador, he's in Bosnia, he's everywhere. Been Mideast bureau chief for the New York Times for, 10 years or 7 years. And if there's a person who's really gone out there, risked his life, been shot at, seen more combat than any of the generals on the Joint Chiefs or anywhere else, it's Chris Hedges. And he's an incredibly courageous journalist. I should mention that his role model, I read a great, marvelous interview with him in which he talked about his father, I gather Presbyterian minister, and his father was one of those brave souls who supported gay rights, supported the civil rights movement, lost a part of his congregation over it, and Chris said was a great inspiration in his life. He studied at the Harvard Divinity School. He's written a number of very important books. He was a finalist. His book you probably know best, War is a Force That Gives Us Meaning, was a finalist for the National Book Critics Circle Award for Nonfiction. He was part of the 202 team at the New York Times that won a Pulitzer Prize for covering terrorism, and he received the 202 Amnesty International Global Award for Human Rights Journalism. And his most recent book is American Fascist, the Christian Right, and the War on America, which we've kind of been cannibalizing on Truthdig. But tonight you should go buy their books outside and help them out. So we're going to begin with you, Sam Harris, and I'm not going to ring a bell or anything. Just do your spiel, and then he'll do his, and we'll mix it up, take a few questions, and...
Great. Well, thank you, Robert. I think I'm bound to offend somebody in this room because we're living in a country where 90% of people claim to believe in a biblical God. I just want to assure you up front that I'm not being deliberately provocative. The point is not to offend you, and it's certainly not the point of my books. I'm just extremely worried about the role that religion is playing in our world. I happen to think faith-based religion is the most divisive and dangerous ideology we have ever concocted. It keeps me awake at night. Now, as someone who has been doing this for a while, ever since September 11th, ever since those 19 guys showed our pious nation just how socially beneficial religious certainty can be, I have argued against the role that religion is playing in our societies. And I've come to see that really there are only three ways of rising to the defense of God. There are not 100 ways of doing this. Either a person argues that a specific religion is true, or he argues that religion in general is useful, and so useful that it may be necessary, or he attacks atheism essentially as another religion, as being dogmatic, intolerant, irrational, or otherwise worthy of contempt. And so I want to separate these three modes of defending religion because any conversation between a believer and a non-believer tends to find one of these ruts. First, let's start with this claim that any one of our religions is true. There are at least two problems with taking this path. The first is they can't all be true. I mean, this is something that Bertrand Russell pointed out 100 years ago. Even if we knew that one of our religions was perfectly true, I mean, even if we knew this was God's multiple choice exam, is it A, Judaism, B, Christianity, C, Islam? Even if we knew one was perfect, given the bewildering profusion of doctrines on offer, and given their mutual incompatibility, every believer should expect damnation purely as a matter of probability. Now it seems to me this should give religious people pause when they espouse their certainties. It never does, but it should. But the deeper problem with arguing for the truth of any religion is that the evidence for our religions is either non-existent or terrible. And this subsumes all claims about the existence of a personal God, the divine origin of certain books, the virgin birth of certain people, the veracity of ancient miracles. I mean, take Christianity as an example. Christianity is founded on the claim that the gospel account of the miracles of Jesus is true. There are certain Christians that may want to hedge their bet here, but most Christians, most of the time, take some complement of these miracles as true, and most important seems to be the resurrection. Now, the problem with this is that the only thing that testifies to these miracles ever having occurred is the gospel. There's no extra-biblical description of these events. Everyone agrees that the Gospels were written decades after the events they report, the earliest Gospels. The problem is that even if the evidence were much better than that, even if we had hundreds of contemporaneous eyewitness accounts of these miracles, that would still not be good enough evidence to cash out the claims of Christianity. Why not? Well, the problem is that in the 21st century, reports of miracles are still quite common. I have met literally hundreds of Western-educated men and women who think that their favorite Hindu or Buddhist guru has magic powers. I mean, these are the reports of miracles are quite current. There are Hindu yogis and mystics who reportedly walk on water and raise the dead and fly without the aid of technology and read minds and divine the future. You take someone like Satya Sai Baba, the South Indian guru. All of these miracles are attributed to him. He even claims to have been born of a virgin, which incidentally is not such a rare claim in the history of religion or in history generally. Genghis Khan was supposedly born of a virgin. Alexander the Great was born of a virgin. I mean, parthenogenesis does not guarantee that you're going to turn the other cheek, apparently.